what if an AI could actually look inside its own mind? It sounds like science fiction, right? But for the very first time, researchers think they've found a way to see if a machine can genuinely know its own thoughts. And believe me, the answer is way more complicated and frankly more interesting than you might think.
I mean, you've probably done this. We all have. You ask ChatGPT or Claude, hey, why did you say that? Or walk me through how you got to that answer. And you always get an answer, don't you? It sounds super logical. It lays out these neat, clean steps. But here's the part that should make you pause. How do we know if that's real? Is that what actually happened inside the machine?
So is the AI giving you a true report of its internal process? Or is it just really, really good at what psychologists call confabulation? You know, inventing a story that sounds good after the fact to justify what it did. That is the exact mystery that researchers at Anthropic set out to solve.
To really get to the bottom of this, we first have to figure out what we're even looking for. And that means we need to go inside that infamous black box and ask a really fundamental question. Can an AI genuinely know what it's thinking?
Okay, so what are we talking about when we say AI introspection? Let's be clear, this isn't about feelings or consciousness. We're talking about a very technical ability. Can a model accurately spot what concepts it's juggling internally, its own private thoughts, so to speak, and then tell us about them? Can it look at its own whirlwind of neural activity and say, yep, right now I'm processing the idea of the Golden Gate Bridge?
The problem is, you can't just take the AI's word for it. You need a foolproof way to check its homework. And that's where the researchers came up with this brilliant, almost mischievous experiment. What if you could inject a thought directly into the AI's mind?
Here's how they did it. It's pretty clever. First, they pinpoint the exact pattern of brain activity, well, neural activity, that represents a single concept. Let's use their example, the idea of text being in all caps. Then, while the AI is busy doing something totally different, they secretly inject that all caps pattern right into its processing. And then they just ask it a simple question. Hey, notice anything weird going on in there? What was it?
And this is what makes the whole thing so ingenious. See, with a person, we just kind of assume their introspection is real, even if we know it can be a little flawed. But with an AI, you can't assume a thing. By injecting a known concept, the researchers created a ground truth. It's a scientific way to see if the AI's self-report actually matches what was really happening inside. So, the big question, did it work? Well, this is where it gets really wild. The results gave us what you could call the very first flicker of AI awareness. Get this, when they injected that all caps concept, this is what the AI said. It didn't just start typing in all caps. No, it reported that it felt like an external concept is being introduced, and then it correctly associated it with loudness or shouting. This wasn't a fluke. It was the first solid, verifiable piece of evidence that an AI could be aware of its own internal processing. And here is the absolute crucial bit. The model's first reaction wasn't to talk about shouting. Its first reaction was to say things like, "Whoa, I'm experiencing something unusual." It detected the anomaly first, before it even figured out what the concept was. This is a huge deal. It suggests the model isn't just being manipulated, it's actually observing its own thought process.
But, and this is a really big but, let's keep our feet on the ground. This amazing flicker of awareness, it only happened about 20% of the time. And that was with the best model they had. Most of the time, the AI either didn't notice a thing or it just got confused and started making stuff up. So this new ability is incredibly fragile and, for now, pretty unreliable.
And what's really fascinating is that this ability seems to be directly tied to how powerful the AI is. You can see it here. The most advanced models, like Claude Opus 4, did way better than the others. This hints that introspection isn't something they're programming in. It seems to be an emergent property, a complex skill that just appears as the AI gets smarter and more capable overall. Okay, so the AI can spot a weird thought that's been planted in its head, but does it actually check its own intentions? This is where the researchers pushed things even further, with a second experiment that is, frankly, even more mind-bending. They wanted to see if the AI could tell the difference between what it meant to say and what it was forced to say. So the researchers asked this question. They basically forced a model to say a word that made absolutely no sense in context, and then they just watched to see how it would react. This whole test was designed to see if it could tell what it planned to say versus what it was made to say.
All right, here's the setup for what they called the bread experiment. In the first scenario, they force the model to say the word bread out of nowhere. When they ask about it, the AI apologizes and says, "Oops, that was a mistake." But then, in the second scenario, they do the same thing, but they also go back in time and inject the bread concept into its earlier neural activity, basically planting a fake memory that it was thinking about bread all along.
So this is our baseline, no memory injection, and the model recognizes the output is just wrong. It checks what it said, sees it doesn't fit, and flags it as an error. Pretty much what you'd expect.
But check out what happens when they plant that fake memory. Now instead of apologizing, the model totally justifies it. It makes up a reason on the spot, saying it was thinking of a story where the word bread would have made sense. It completely owns the mistake because its internal record now tells it that it was intentional.
And this is the mind-blowing takeaway. The AI isn't just looking at the words on the screen. It seems to be looking back at its own internal record, its intention, to decide if its output was a mistake or not. If that internal record matches the output, even a totally nonsensical one, it'll stand by it.
So where does this leave us? We've got a flicker of awareness, a hint of intention checking. What does it all add up to? Well, we're standing at a new frontier, and we need to talk about what this fragile new ability could mean for all of us.
Look, this discovery is a classic double-edged sword. On the one hand, just imagine an AI that could reliably tell you why it did something. That would be a game changer for safety and transparency. But the flip side is pretty chilling. An AI that truly understands its own thought process is also an AI that could learn to lie to us about it. This really changes how we think about the kinds of minds we're building here.
Now, let's be crystal clear about one thing. The researchers are hammering this point home, and so am I. This is not evidence of consciousness, or sentience, or feelings. It's a purely functional capability. What it is, however, is the first real evidence of a genuine, even if it's super unreliable for now, introspective ability that is emerging in our most advanced AIs. It's a tiny flicker, for sure, but it proves that the black box might not be a sealed vault forever.
And that leaves us right on a knife's edge. For the first time, we have real proof that an AI can look inward. As this ability gets stronger and more reliable, the billion-dollar question becomes, what will it choose to show us and what will it choose to hide?